If only Crisp was as stunning as like Equinox, this would have been a perfect 10 out of 10 palette for me. Like I have no notes, but it falls a little flat. Hey love, what is up? Thanks for joining me today. My name is Lauren if you didn't know, and today we are going over Natasha Denona's newest release, the Bloom Palette. So if you're interested in this, just keep on watching. So this is the Natasha Denona Bloom Eyeshadow Palette. It retails for $69. It is a 15-pan warm tone eyeshadow palette of new floral hues and Natasha Denona's iconic formulas crafted to create the perfect springtime looks. The Bloom eyeshadow palette showcases floral-inspired hues encased in her hand-painted watercolor packaging. It includes peachy corals to rich burgundies and complementing mauves, a versatile array of warm tone shades that create everything from soft sparkling doll eyes to expressive glam looks. Also featuring 6 creamy mattes, 2 silky mattes, 2 metallics, and 5 sparkling foil shades in her iconic formulas, the Bloom eyeshadow palette is designed to deliver professional quality results for all skill levels. This has a 24-month shelf life, and where were you made? It was made in Italy. So that's good. This lasts you for 2 years if you do buy this bad boy. Let's get into my eye looks, and then I'll wrap up at the end. Eye look number 1, I'm taking the shade Ren and blending that all throughout the crease and on the outer portion of the eyelid. I then take the shade Fluorescence on a shader brush and pack that on the center of the lid. I will say this shade and Ren are very close in tone and color, so it's creating a more monochromatic look going on the eyelids right now. I take the shade Lush on a shader brush to the inner portion of the lid to brighten up the inner corner. I was going for a soft pastel and airy type look for this day, and the metallics in this palette are very soft, so they're good for that. Not super wet or shiny by themselves, but if you use them wet, you can definitely amp them up. If you're afraid to wear metallics to work, this is definitely the palette for you because these metallics aren't like super impactful or in your face and shiny. I then take the shade Equinox and apply it all over the lid, and this took it up a notch. It made my eyelids look wet and sparkly. It's such a pretty shade. Yeah, I love this shade. And that finishes this eye look. I completely forgot to film the final completed look, but I'm wearing this eye look in my Say Blush video, so I took an unused clip from that video for it, and I'll link that video in the cards up above. Second eye look, and at this point I'm just playing around with the palette to see what it do. I take the shade Keen with a blending brush in the crease and on the outer portion of the lid. I'm going to apologize now in advance for the next 2 eye looks because I'm slightly out of frame because I keep looking down at my mirror instead of straight ahead. Then I take a shader brush with the shade Robin to the outer portion of the lid and blend it with the previous shade Keen. Then I go in with the shade Fleur, and it wasn't as impactful as I wanted it to be with a shader brush, so I end up going in with my finger all over the lid, and that worked better. This metallic is another soft one, and like the others, it will only be super impactful or foil looking when you use it wet, but I try to stay away from doing extra things like that in these videos because I want to show how the palette performs on its own. Then I go in with the shade Crisp to the inner corner, and it didn't do anything worth a damn. I tried to solo with my finger off camera, and it's definitely a weaker shade. It doesn't give that wet look like Equinox, despite them being of the same formula. I have to keep playing with it, but right now this shade is a dud. For the third eye look, I'm stepping away from the pinks and I start with the shade Brick on the outer portion and I blend it up into the crease, and it surprised me. It was way more pigmented and rich than I was expecting. Everything up until now has been a very soft pastel type vibe, and Brick is definitely not that. It's definitely a rich red shade. Next, I go in with Ember all over the lid using my finger, and I follow with the shade Rue on the inner corner. Combined with Ember, it took more of a golden hue, which was neat. I took the shade Lush on the lower lash line on my red eye, and this is definitely one of my favorite shades in the palette. I actually do really like this shade a lot. I then took the shade Equinox on the lower lash line of the pink pastel eye. Mind you, I used this shade completely dry with no adhesive, and it stuck very well all by itself, and I didn't even get any fallout. Very impressive. This added a subtle pop to the lower lash line. It was very nice. And finally, I took the shade Brick on the outer portion of the lower lash line and connected it to the top. I threw on some mascara, and that completes these two looks. Final eye look, which is the one I'm wearing in this video. I wanted a soft purple all matte eye look, so I started off with the shade Flows and blended it on the outer portion of the lid and into the crease. I then took the shade Petal to create an ombre. It was a little too stark for my liking, so I ended up going over it with Robin to create more of that subtle ombre gradient I was looking for. I just had to repeat the step of Petal on this eye because I did do it on the first eye, so to make both eyes match, I just had to repeat this step. So here I am covering up Petal with Robin completely, and then I go in with Flows to blend the two together, and literally that's the eye look. I just like to take my time blending everything and making it look cohesive and well put together. And for the final step, I took the shade Flows on the outer portion of the lower lash line, just literally the outer portion. I didn't drag it all the way across, and that completes the look. I love this palette. I don't know. I'm not the biggest pink person, but like I do like a warm tone palette, so I knew I would probably like this because I like warm tone palettes. I will say Natasha Denona did get back in good graces with me with this palette. I Need a Warm. I know I didn't do a formal video for it on my channel. I actually didn't buy this when it first dropped. I actually saw it in store and swatched like 2 or 3 of the foil shades in this palette, and I was like, oh, I think I need you to come home with me. After the golden palette, my faith in Natasha Denona was wavering a little bit. I did a video on that one. You can watch it in the cards. I'll link it up above. But yeah, I wasn't impressed. I did not like it. That palette fell flat for me, especially as a dark-skinned individual. Like it wasn't doing me no favors. It didn't do me any good. And the original gold palette was better. I said what I said. Anyway, but yeah, she got back in my good graces with this. If you do want me to do a formal video with the I Need a Warm palette in the comments down below, just let me know. I have no problem doing it. But yeah, she got back in my good graces with this one. I'm actually wearing an eye look from this palette in my best and worst of 2024 video. I'll link that video up in the cards. But yeah, she got back in my good graces. So she made it off my I'm only buying Natasha Denona discounted or on sale list. Because that palette, the metallics in it are so foiled and stunning. It's like, damn. That's what sold me, because like I said, I just swatched the foil shades in the store and I was like, oh, okay, I hear you, I see you. And I ended up buying it, and I really like that palette. She did it again with this palette. I will say, out of all her monochromatic palettes that she's released so far, this has been the most versatile, honestly. I know it looks like your standard pinky warm tone palette. You look at this and think, all I'm gonna get is pink looks out of here. Wrong, dead wrong. I get pinks, I get reds, I get purples, I get like brown. If I bothered to use the brown, this is the only shade I didn't like touch in this palette yet, is Bark. But we've seen browns before. I didn't buy this palette for the brown. I bought it for all the other colors, okay? I'm assuming it's gonna work well. If Bark doesn't work well, let me know, or let us know in the comments down below. Like, it's a brown. But I got quite a range of looks out of it, and I feel like they all look distinctly different. So the versatility with this palette is definitely there, and I really like it for that. I would say the only shade that fell a little flat for me was the shade Crisp over here, which is odd because my favorite shade in the palette is Equinox, which is a shade down here. It's a very glittery duochrome, I would say triple chrome. Sparkly, like it has like, it looks like just like glitter is just dancing on your eyelids type shade. And it has like this blue to lavender to pink flip going on in it. It's so stunning. And Crisp is supposed to be of a similar formula, just different colors. The glitter particles in it don't slap as hard as it does in Equinox. So yeah, I mean, it's there, but it's not as impactful as Equinox. I was expecting like a soft wash of like white and pink and coral and peachy, like, you know, glitter just like dancing on my eyelids with the shade, and I don't really get that. I get something, but it's not as impactful as Equinox. I don't know, it just kind of falls a little flat for me. But that's the only complaint I really have about this palette. The longevity is there. The few eye looks I did do, I wore them for several hours. They didn't fade, they didn't crease, nothing weird happened with any of my eyeshadow looks at all, so that was a plus. I mean, it's Natasha Denona. I expect great quality from her. If I was to recommend this, I would say if you bought it at full price, I don't think you would be mad. If you bought it on sale, I definitely don't think you'll be mad. But you gotta know you like pink and warm tone shades, or purple. You gotta know you're gonna like pink and purple. I'm not the biggest pink and purple person, but when done right, I'll throw it on my eyes. Like I don't mind dipping in when I feel very girly and I want an all pink look. Like, you know, my blush, my highlighter and all that today is all pink. I was feeling the pink today despite me doing a lavender purplish eye. Every time I've grabbed this palette, I will say I've had a hard time not using this Equinox shade. It is my favorite shade in this palette, and yeah, I kind of want to put it on my eyelids right now as we speak, like somewhere either my lower lash line or just like, you know, pat a little bit on the top. And what's crazy is I wanted to do a matte eye look. Like I woke up today and was like, I want to do a matte eye look, and I'm still drawn to the shade. Every time I open this palette, I'm trying to incorporate the shade in damn near every look. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite shade in the palette. Yeah, this shade is all that, this Equinox shade. She's that girl. I like this palette, no complaints. Like I said, everything was pigmented, it builds it up nice, it blended smoothly. Like I really have no complaints. Natasha Denona right now is 2 for 2 with me. Like these last 2 palettes that she released, like they're good. Like I will say the metallics are a lot more foiled and like super wet looking in I Need a Warm than they are in the Bloom palette. I find these metallics to be a little bit softer. I appreciate the versatility in this, and I can see myself getting a lot of use out of it, especially the shade down here. I need this as a single. Like if anybody knows like a single eyeshadow that's similar to this, leave it in the comments down below. Appreciate it. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Only because of that one shade Crisp, kind of like it's a dud for me, but this past week using this has been nothing but a pleasant experience. So yeah, let me know how you feel about the Natasha Denona Bloom Palette down in the comments below. Have you tried it? Are you waiting for a sale? Is it on your radar at all? Do you hate it? Like, anything you want to talk about in the comments down below. Appreciate you hanging out. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Like, this Equinox shade just looks like a wet duochrome blue to purple lavender flip on your eyes. Like, she's special. She is special. It kind of reminds me of a Pat McGrath Special Shades a little bit. This comes extremely close to that with less fallout. I ain't get no fallout with this palette. So yeah, this reminds me of like a Pat McGrath Special Shade with no fallout. Imagine. Like, she just looks so wet. She perfect.